On the afternoon of November 18, 1978, in a remote agricultural settlement in the jungle of Guyana, 918 American citizens died in a single afternoon. They were members of a religious movement called the People's Temple, led by an American minister named Jim Jones. They drank or were forced to drink a flavored soft drink mixed with potassium cyanide. The dead included 304 children, ranging in age from infants to teenagers. 5 members of a United States congressional delegation, sent to investigate the settlement, had been murdered earlier that day at a nearby airstrip. The deaths at Jonestown were until September 11, 2001, the largest single deliberate loss of American civilian life in the country's history. The story of how a charismatic American minister led a religious community to mass suicide and murder in a South American jungle is one of the most troubling chapters in American social history. To understand the catastrophe, you have to understand the man who created it. James Warren Jones was born in 1931 in rural Indiana. His childhood was difficult. His father was a disabled World War I veteran. His mother was an industrial worker who left him largely to fend for himself. He was fascinated with religion from an early age. By his teenage years he was preaching in local churches and developing a remarkably forceful personal style. He moved through several Pentecostal denominations and was eventually ordained in the Disciples of Christ. By 1954, he had founded his own ministry in Indianapolis. The People's Temple, as it became known, was unusual for its time. Jones was a white minister deliberately recruiting black congregants in racially segregated America. He preached racial integration when this was controversial. He organized food distributions, low-income housing, and free medical care. By 1960 he had become a prominent figure in Indianapolis civil rights work, appointed to the City Human Rights Commission. By the late 1960s, Jones had become convinced that nuclear war was imminent and that California was the safest place to be. He moved his core congregation to Redwood Valley, California, in 1965. The community grew. He attracted more followers. He developed a following among progressive religious communities in San Francisco and Los Angeles. The People's Temple grew to several thousand members at its peak. The movement combined Christian theology, socialist political economy, racial justice rhetoric, and a charismatic leader claiming healing powers and revelations. Members were expected to surrender personal property to the community. Many lived in communal housing. Children were raised collectively. Discipline was strict. Public criticism of Jones was forbidden. By the early 1970s, the movement had begun to attract critical attention. Former members alleged sexual abuse, financial exploitation, physical punishments, and psychological manipulation. A San Francisco Chronicle investigation in 1977 was particularly damaging. Jones, anticipating exposure and possible criminal investigation, decided to relocate the most loyal members to a remote agricultural settlement in Guyana. The settlement was named Jonestown. The Guyana settlement, established in 1974, was a clearing of jungle land in the rural northwestern part of the country, hundreds of kilometers from any major town. Members built simple wooden buildings, planted crops, and developed a rudimentary infrastructure. By 1977, approximately 1,000 People's Temple members were living there. They had limited communication with the outside world. They were dependent on food and supply shipments arranged by Jones. They were subject to his increasingly erratic and authoritarian leadership. Reports from former Jonestown residents who had managed to leave were alarming. They described public punishments, food restrictions, sleep deprivation, forced labor, and rehearsed mass suicides called White Nights. Jones, increasingly addicted to amphetamines and barbiturates, was suffering paranoid delusions. He believed the United States government was about to invade and seize the children. He preached revolutionary suicide as the appropriate response. By late 1978, family members of Jonestown residents had begun pressuring American politicians to investigate. United States Congressman Leo Ryan, representing California's 11th District, agreed to lead a delegation to Jonestown. He arrived on November 17, 1978, with several reporters and concerned family members. Ryan spent 24 hours at the settlement. He met with Jones. He toured the buildings. He listened to congregation members who insisted everything was fine. He also met privately with several members who quietly indicated they wanted to leave. By the morning of November 18, 15 People's Temple members had requested to leave with the Ryan delegation. The group, including Ryan, the reporters,